It's a puzzle of our times. From a purely scientific perspective, time travel is theoretically possible. But we don't yet have anywhere close to the technology required to survive or even attempt it. Perhaps the great Albert Einstein summarized it best when he described the distinction between past, present, and future as, quote, only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Nevertheless, there are still claims that that illusion has occasionally slipped, and there are still stories that demand attention. So, this is Unveiled, and today we're answering the extraordinary question, did this computer prove that time travel is real? Do you need the big questions answered? Are you constantly curious? Then why not subscribe to Unveiled for more clips like this one, and ring the bell for more thought-provoking content. Despite its prominence in science fiction, time travel nowadays isn't too far outside the realm of scientific fact. The leading theories as to how our universe works, Einstein's theories of relativity, allow for time travel in their equations. And technically, we already time travel in some ways. Astronauts who've spent time on the International Space Station have been found to have traveled a few milliseconds into the future, for example. And when looking at distant objects through their telescopes, astronomers are known to be looking into the past, because light takes time to travel across the vast reaches of space. In general, traveling to the past is considered a far more difficult prospect than to the future. But even it might be possible if we could simply bypass the speed of light, perhaps by creating wormholes. Not all time travel requires physical movement by a human between here and there, however. You might also send messages back in time, a seemingly easier task. As with so many heady hypothesized technologies, the key could lie with quantum mechanics, which broadly says that an atom can split into two parts, that those two parts can then go their separate ways, but that they will also remain connected. Whatever happens to one part affects the other, and almost instantaneously in what's called quantum non-locality. And if that could be harnessed for messaging between 2 points that are sufficiently far away from one another, then it may theoretically be possible to send a message back in time or receive it from the future. So far, there are no confirmed instances in which this has happened. If there were, it would be a sea of change for science. But there is one debated story that could be linked, involving an ordinary computer apparently conveying genuine messages through time. In 1984, one Ken Webster was a teacher living in the village of Dodleston in the UK. One day he decided to borrow a computer from his school, and after a night out during which he'd left that computer running, he reportedly came home to find that a poem had been written on it in his absence. Made out to Ken and Deb and Nick, his friends who were also living in the house and also returning home. The poem is said to have covered a strange collection of topics, including faith, fear, nightmares, flowers, and cats. An unusual event, but Ken reportedly didn't dwell on it, and returned the computer shortly afterwards. The following year, though, he borrowed another one, and something decidedly similar took place. Another message appeared to him, but this time written in a different tone and style, apparently in archaic English, dating from around the 16th or 17th centuries. The new, even stranger note is said to have suggested that Ken, plus Deb and Nick, were living in the home of whomever was behind the message, with the writer identifying themselves as Lucas. They allegedly followed a series of back-and-forth messages between Ken and Lucas to determine that Lucas had once, centuries ago, owned the land that Ken's house was now built on. The story is said to have taken a final twist, however, when Ken revealed to Lucas that he was from the year 1985, only for Lucas to claim that he had previously believed Ken to be from the year 2109. As it turns out then, there was another person or group of people communicating via the computer, this time from the future. Ken Webster claims to have messaged them too, and to have received a startling reply. The person or people in 2109 said to Ken, so the story goes, that he had some kind of higher purpose that would change the fate of the world at a later date. The details of that higher purpose were unfortunately quite vague, though. At the time, it's said that Ken became so concerned that he hired a paranormal investigation team to canvass his house on multiple occasions, but nothing was found. And to this day, there is no confirmed explanation. So what was going on? One possibility is, of course, that it was all a hoax. Ken, Deb, and Nick have stood by the story for decades, but skeptics point towards a book that Ken wrote afterwards, inspired by the experience, called The Vertical Plane. Might the entire thing have been just one big publicity ploy? There have been question marks raised about the authenticity of Lucas's language, too, with some argument that it was a modern copy of a 16th century tongue rather than the real thing. As such, attempts have been made to show Lucas's messages to be a contemporary creation, although nothing conclusive has ever been found. And again, Ken and his friends have always maintained that Lucas replied of his own accord. With no global internet back then, nor network connections to potentially explain it away, the claim that these messages were just appearing on the screen is certainly unusual. What's your verdict on this case? Was this a genuine window into not only the past, but the future as well? Ken's apparent higher purpose hasn't been made public knowledge as of yet, but should we be surprised by that? In another recent video, we took a closer look at the reasons why the majority of people might never know were time travel ever to be invented, such as the nature of the technology. So could this story be a rare glitch in the system when we are afforded a glimpse of the truth? Or was it all a hoax from the beginning, designed to get people talking even decades after the event? Unfortunately, there's no hard proof that this was ever actually a case of time travel or time messaging. Toward the end of his conversation with Ken, Lucas is said to have revealed that he is, or was, really known as Thomas Harden back in his day. And a Thomas Harden is reported to have lived during the 1550s, serving as a vicar, but not particularly nearby the village of Dodleston. Placing Lucas within any kind of accuracy then has proven impossible, and the alleged figure from 2109 has remained similarly mysterious too, with no further leads. Skeptics further argue that this situation only works if all three parties involved, Ken, Lucas, and the person from 2109, all had access to the same computer at different times. And so, while its survival to the future is possible, how did it get to the 1500s? How could Lucas have operated it back then without electricity? And why was its past existence not much bigger news? Perhaps it's a real-world example of the Bootstrap paradox at play. If the computer was created in the 1980s, for instance, and sent back in time, it would then exist before it was created, meaning it would have no true point of origin. It's just there because it is, and that's the paradox. The story of the so-called Dodleston Messages never really clarifies how any of this might have been possible. In their conversations, Ken apparently never learned from Lucas exactly the mechanics at play, and the person from 2109 never revealed anything further to the presumably very confused schoolteacher positioned 124 years before their time. Many scientists, including Stephen Hawking, have argued that maybe the best proof that time travel isn't possible is the noticeable lack of time tourists today. There's also a lack of reported messages in time, though, with this story providing a rare commodity. Naturally, in a reality where time travel is possible, there might be any number of explanations for this, including potential laws and regulations in the future, or secret protocols in the here and now. But still, it's perhaps unsurprising that stories like this are so often met with raised eyebrows. Could it really be true that a three-pronged, fourth-dimensional, seemingly spontaneous digital chat sprung up back in the 1980s between someone of then, someone of the past, and someone of the future? One thing's for sure, if it were proven, it would be an unrivaled revelation, because that's how a computer might have shown that time travel is real. Maybe. What do you think? Is there anything we missed? Let us know in the comments. Check out these other clips from Unveiled, and make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for our latest content.